Now, do one of us sit here? Okay, cool. So the purpose of wanting to go through everything now was to pretty much run through where we've been, what we've done, what's worked, what hasn't, and to get everyone up to speed in terms of what's happening from a Wealth Migrate perspective. Brendan's actually just handing out some packs to everyone. And he's going to take us, don't worry about paging through that now, he's actually going to take us through that in terms of where we're at. So, in a nutshell, we've had a model that works in Australia, and we're going to go into that in more detail like I discussed around the fire tonight. But in April last year, Brendan and myself went over to America. It was a good opportunity on the ground. We were there in 2010, and although we all knew there was an opportunity in 2010, we decided that we couldn't find the right partners, we couldn't execute on the opportunity. So when we went back in April, we believed that the fundamentals had changed, the market had changed, and also we found partners on the ground that we liked. So we came back quite aggressively in May. I actually phoned Henny from Times Square and said, look, now's the time to go into America in terms of where we're at. And our initial strategy was twofold. One was to go and buy houses with RJ and effectively renovate them and sell them into the open market like what he was doing. And the second one was to buy properties and to hold them with a kind of a 5-year view plan. So some of you will know it's the growth plan and the income plan. The challenge that we had was that we needed to go and speak to Grant Thornton to get all the tax and the compliance and the structuring and everything sorted. And that took a lot longer than we were hoping. And really what happened from RJ's perspective is two things. He was ready for us in April last year because his biggest constraint was capital. But what tended to happen over the next six months or so is that actually finding the properties on the ground became more of an issue than actually raising the capital. So our pendulum power changed in terms of what we could do and what we could negotiate. We also had a bit of a challenge with regards to RJ, and anyone that's met RJ is that he's a very good operator on the ground. He knows what he's doing and he's extremely competent in finding good deals. But he also likes to do everything in a little bit of a cowboy style on the back of a kind of fag packet calculation type environment. I'm sure you would agree with me, And from a Wealth Migrate perspective, that can't work. I'm sure all of you agree. None of us would be that comfortable just giving our money to RJ and kind of hoping that it all works. Literally, his word was trust. Just give me the money and trust me. which is fine if it works, but if it didn't work, you can imagine that would go pretty pear-shaped pretty quickly. We also did quite a lot of work in New York, in Orlando, and Memphis, in terms of the income plan. And we eventually decided that the real opportunity was not necessarily to buy individual properties and rent them out, but to buy whole buildings, so to buy whole apartment blocks. Now, unfortunately, at the same time, we were realizing that so was the whole of America, and it's probably one of the most hotly traded markets right now in terms of apartments. The cap rates have gone from 12 to 14% down to like 5 or 6%, because a lot of institutional money is coming in. So it's very difficult to make those projects work, and there's no point in just doing business for the sake of doing business in terms of where we're at. So we've evolved and adapted in terms of where we were looking, and as most people know, in Atlanta, when we were there in February, in fact, it was when Michael, you know anyone who was on the February trip, Ryan and Jaco as well, was the first time we sort of started coming across the land. And there, it's really interesting. We were looking at land yesterday in Australia that they were selling for $400,000. $400,000 for a serviced plot in Australia on a golf estate. And here, you're looking at land that was anywhere from kind of $5,000 to maybe $20,000 a lot. Now, what the developers did, and I know for some of you I'm repeating stuff you've heard, but I just want to give you all an overview so that we start from scratch. And what the developers basically did is in the heyday, they would build out these communities. Now, the good thing is there was a law in place that they had to build the clubhouse, they had to build the amenities, the gates and everything else before they started selling houses. Now, in South Africa, the clubhouse is always built last, and so unfortunately, generally it doesn't get built, etc., etc. But here, you've got quite a few estates where the guys had built out the clubhouse, they'd built out houses, and then the remaining, say, 20, 30, 40, 50 lots weren't developed, and then they went bankrupt, and they all got repossessed by the bank. Now, the bank sat on these for 5 odd years, not knowing what to do with them, and unfortunately, if we'd realized this a year ago, we probably could have picked them up for nothing with no competition. But hindsight is always 20/20, And what is very interesting is that the replacement cost to put the services, just to put the services back in the land, is anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000 or $60,000 per lot, depending on how much landscaping you need to do. So we decided back in February to embark on a land banking campaign to effectively try and accumulate as many of these lots. And our target was to secure 1,000 lots. Because what it allows you to do is that as the prices continue to rise and are getting closer and closer to replacement cost, that obviously makes new builds more attractive. And he who controls the land is king, in terms of what you can bring to the market. So over time, that would provide us with a solution. At the same time, in about August last year when Henny came over, we looked at all the different partners on the ground there. And Henny specifically said, John Chin is our guy that we really need to get on board. And one of the challenges we were having is that we were going over, looking at stuff, then we were coming back. And it was one of these kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we would make huge progress when we were in America, and anyone who's been in America will know what I'm talking about anywhere overseas. But you come back and we just couldn't seem to get that traction. So in about April, John came out here in March to the extravaganza. And in April, May, when we went back on the second trip this year, he mentioned to Brendan and myself that he was looking to move on in terms of his relationship with RJ. And so we decided, well, that was the time to really say, listen, let's get this thing going and let's build the momentum here. And so John joined in June. June. And that's made a huge difference to having someone on the ground and keeping that traction and keeping the momentum up. So he went up to North Dakota was one of the first projects because we heard a lot about North Dakota. And is everyone familiar with North Dakota? Does anyone not know about North Dakota? No? Everyone knows about the oil and everything else. Okay. So John went up there and he literally said to Brendan, myself and Henny, for our next trip when we were coming in July, you guys have to come to North Dakota because it really is, it's a massive thing and it's having a big impact in America. So we flew up there in July, and the intention was to go and look at residential homes because the yields are ridiculous. I mean, we've looked at stuff from a 15% net yield through to a 40% net yield, supposedly. And when we arrived, the one problem with any boom town is that you're always going to have a boom-bust cycle. And what Henny specifically was concerned about is that if we're a developer in the residential sector, there's quite a lot of luck involved in when you bring it to market. If you bring it to market at the right time, you make lots of money. If you don't bring it in the right time, you go into a bust cycle. So quite quickly, we started talking to the locals there. And I must admit, to give John credit, the people he's introduced us to, we're literally dealing with the head of economic development, the head of planning. The last time we were there, we met Nonnie and I and Brendan met the next guy in line to be the senator of the state of North Dakota. Henny actually went shooting with him, which is what you do in North Dakota, apparently. Yeah. And so, we really are talking to the right people. And we were introduced to a gentleman, or 3 gentlemen actually, that are building the biggest master plan community there. Now, we don't quite have master plans in South Africa, well, they're not as regular as they are in Australia and America. But if you think of something like a Century City or a Melrose Arch, that is really what a master plan is. So you've got residential, you've got commercial, you've got hotels, everything is in one place. And they're looking to build the town centre, both in Watford and in Williston, which are the 2 kind of main areas of North Dakota. So really from our perspective, we've settled on a 3-pronged attack in terms of America at the moment. The one is in Atlanta, is to focus on the land. And to acquire the land, there's 3 exit strategies. There's the hold, basically just simply hold the land. There's the buy the land, build out the houses, and sell them into the open market in America. And then there's the buy them, build them, and rent them out. So those are basically the 3 things. Then the commercial and industrial, and Henny, I'll let you talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the kind of the change once we get to North Dakota, when we go through the project. But we really want to focus on that commercial and industrial in North Dakota. Now, just as no interest, one of the things that we've got up in North Dakota is that there's no information. So any sophisticated investor sits down and they want all the comparative analysis, they want all the numbers. Well, it doesn't exist. So it's cowboy country, and that's the point. It's new and everything's happening. So what Henny and John came up with a concept when they were up there now on our last trip 2 or 3 weeks ago is that we're doing a joint venture with the one lady that has about 40%, Ian, of the market, 40%. So she dominates 40% of the estate agency market in North Dakota already. And quite interesting enough, she wasn't part of the old boys club. North Dakota is very much old boys club. And she wasn't part of it. They wouldn't even let her into the MLS system. But she came in, she's obviously got panache and aggression and whatever, and she now dominates 40% of the market. So, but what she doesn't have is any commercial arm to her business. So what we're doing is we're forming a commercial alliance with her so that we're going to run the commercial agency for Watford and Williston. Now, the reason we're doing that is not because we want to become estate agents in the commercial space. We want to dominate the knowledge space. So we want to know all the people that are looking for places. What are they looking for? What is the demand? And really be able to control that market, because we believe over time there's a real opportunity there, but you've got to be the number one player. You've got to be dominant in that area. You can't be coming in second or third. So that for us is the second strategy. So in North Dakota, it's more looking at income projects where we build them. We have to build them because there's nothing to buy, and we hold them for a medium amount of time. We make a decent return, and then we have an exit strategy selling onto the funds, because as the areas become more stabilized, and as the rents become more stabilized, then the institutional investors come in and are happy to buy up at lower cap rates, and that's your exit strategy. One thing that concerns Henny a little bit, I think all of us, is that it's a pretty crap place. Like at Christmas time, it's minus 45 degrees, to put it in perspective. So no one chooses to live there kind of long term. Everyone has a 5-10 year view, so it's something that we need to be careful of. And the third strategy, if you want to call it, is still the apartments. But what we've come across, and funny enough, it was on the buyer's trip in May, we were introduced to a guy by the name of Bruce. Now Bruce is an ex-CA, oh no, that's wrong. He's a CA, he's an ex-South African. He was actually trained at BDO, Spencer Stewart. And he went across to the States in '98 on, what do you call it, Ronnie, when you go on those programs for secondment? Yeah. So he went across on one of those 6 to 12 month secondments and ended up staying. And he's basically been in property ever since. He's got a huge amount of track record, but the current company that he's working with is a company called Pollock, and they have built 6,000, built or bought and refurbished 6,000 apartments in the last 5 years. Which is quite a lot of apartments, I'm sure as you appreciate. And the very interesting thing that they've got is they've got access to finance, both private equity money and institutional money. So as an example, we went to look at one project there where they were building about 350 apartments in one of the best suburbs in Atlanta. And to give you headline numbers, the total project was about a $50 million project. They had raised $40 million from traditional financing from the bank, so it's 80% loan to value. The remaining $10 million, they went to the institutional investors for $9 million, and they put in $1 million. So, you know, just in terms of understanding the numbers and what they're doing. And so we've been doing quite a lot of work with Bruce in terms of looking at both existing apartments and building out new projects. That's something that's going to take time, and it's something that will probably be more of a focus in the first quarter of next year. We've had a number of meetings. I know there's a whole lot of documents going back and forth at the moment between Henny and Bruce, basically. So I don't think we want to lose sight of the apartments, but just buying the kind of existing apartments at the moment, there doesn't seem to be, the market's already run. I mean, we went to look at a project in Athens, which is about an hour outside Atlanta, and it's selling at a 5 or 6% cap. And there's nothing we can really do. You know, we went to look at Chicago. Who came with me to Chicago? Yeah, you looked at those buildings in Chicago. I mean, again, they were 5, 5.5, 6%. And we said to them, well, how are we going to add value? No, you can put up the rents. We're like, okay, well, it's so easy to put up the rents. Why don't you put up the rents? You know? So, you know, there wasn't that kind of fat on the bone that we could find. So we believe Bruce is the way into that market in terms of where we're at. So in a nutshell, that's where we're at. This year has been a hugely challenging year, but equally so, by getting John on board, we managed to start getting some real traction now. And so what I really wanted to do was that was kind of the overview of where we're at in the last 18 months. From a financial perspective, Johan is actually coming this afternoon. Johan works with Henny. He's a chartered accountant, works in Henny's office. And Johan is going to be looking after all the financials from a wealth fund rate perspective. He's done a lot of work with Brendan in terms of setting up all the QuickBooks so that we've got all that accessibility. We've had a number of meetings with Ian Scott. We've flown to Cape Town at least 3 times to sit with them. Because if you remember, Ian Scott's the senior managing partner of Grant Thornton, who they're an equity partner in Wild Migrate. Now they want to obviously make sure that all the ducks are in a row from a financial perspective, because their name, brand and reputation is tied to it, and they're ultimately in charge of the compliance. So Ian Scott has laid out exactly how he wants it, and Brendan and Johan have been implementing it. And as I said, Johan's actually coming out tonight. I don't know what time he arrives, but he'll be here for the game drive and for around the fire and stuff, so you can talk to him. On the legal side, we've been doing a lot of work with Chuck Bretz. I don't know if any of you have seen JD Fox has been out here, but Chuck Bretz is his attorney, and his second in charge is a guy by the name of Ed. And I can't remember, what was the other lady's name? Denise. So we had 2 meetings with them when we were in America. We've unfortunately, that's been a very frustrating part of the process. We went to Grant Thornton. They put us in contact with their best attorneys. We worked for months on getting the contract done with a lot of time and a lot of money. We then sent it to America to get American proofed, and they pretty much just said it's rubbish because it's South African and we needed American. So we've gone full circle, and we're pretty much finally there. We had a final meeting with them last week when we were in America in Orlando, and Brendan said this morning that those final documents will actually be coming through now in terms of where we speak. So they're going to look after the legalities. They are basically going to be our legal representation there, that all documents, all contracts, they're checking at a higher level. So no matter where we invest in America, it doesn't matter. They'll still be our legal counsel to make sure that everything's being run smoothly and we've been protected at every level. So I think we've got that duck in a row, if you're, in terms of from the legal side, which really brings us to actually setting up the projects, structuring the projects, laying out the projects, and that's where I had the privilege of meeting Nonnie in beginning of September, I'd say, plus minus, huh? Yeah. Nonnie was doing a presentation, a corporate, basically her background, I'll let you explain it if you don't mind, but her background is from a corporate financing perspective, and the one thing that I think, with regards to our team is we're strong on property. We understand there's a lot of people in this room that understand property, but the corporate kind of financing background, institutional investor, speak a different language. They speak Clive and Peter's language. Where's Peter? It's a way of putting it in the right format and everything else. So Nonnie actually has been doing a lot of work with us and helping us, and actually came over now to America. Because the one thing I always say, and I'm sure a lot of you who've been in America will agree with me, until you've actually been on the ground, it's very hard to visualize and understand what it is we're talking about. We're talking about some place in North Dakota, and until you've actually been there and seen it and felt the energy, it's a different kind of feeling. So if you wouldn't mind, Nonnie, I just wanted to if you could just give a little bit about your background. And she loves public speaking, by the way. And,
especially being put on the spot.
I wonder about that. Then it's on YouTube. And then really, if you wouldn't mind just kind of explaining what our game plan is in terms of putting the PPMs together and the work you're doing with John, in terms of so that we're actually structuring and stuff putting together. So
I'm Nonnie everyone. I'm not an alcoholic.
I don't know. See you in America. I'm not sure.
So I'm a CEO. I did my articles at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I went to New York after that for about 7 months. I came back and I had a big dream of being an investment banker. And I went to R&B and I worked as an analyst initially. And then I became a deal maker in the structured finance, project financing, and corporate financing department. I did quite a few deals in my 5 years. We must have done over $150 million and 15 billion rand, plus 15 billion rand deals. So it was across Africa and in South Africa, and we saw quite a few things. And after that, I decided to leave, and I had a big dream of being an entrepreneur. And I left in March, and I've been helping a private equity fund raise a third-party fund. Been helping a few corporates on their projects and raising funds. And then I met Scott, and it's been quite a fun roller coaster since then.
She comes from a very structured background, so we're the opposites.
I've aged like 15 years.
And now you've got aspirations of being an alcoholic.
And now I am not either. And I went to America, and it was amazing. It was really incredible too. It was a huge learning experience. North Dakota blew my mind. and their partners on the ground. So it's very interesting. And I would definitely recommend for anyone involved to always go on the buyer's trip because you actually get to understand and see what's happening. What I've been doing is I've been helping with the private placement memorandums and the project briefs. So in a general aspect on where Wealth Migrate wants to go to and structuring them from now to get to that point. So the fund perspective or the crowdfunding perspective, it's a similar outcome where you want to always have your strategy in mind and move towards that. A lot of detail around the project briefs and the financials of the forecasts of the project briefs and the plans going forward. And then now the new focus and a lot of focus is going on the communication plan. So as investors going forward, your statements on a monthly basis with the progress reports and the budgets compared to actuals and what's been going on. So that's where I'm at.
Perfect. Can I mean, look, obviously this is informal, so if anyone's got questions, just fire, please. Otherwise I'll just keep going. And if you think of something this afternoon, we can talk around the fire. So Noni brought up a very important thing. One of the visions of Wealth Migrate is to have complete transparency. You know, for me, if I look at something like the growth point balance sheet or income statement, you know, there's a lot of things that are in there, fees, and you know, and it's, you really got to be a sophisticated CA to really know what you're looking at and what you're not looking at. And one of the things that we want to do in the short term is at least on a monthly basis be delivering full reports. But we actually met, and again, John was credit to this. He said to us, anyone who knows John knows that his project management and time management are not the best in the world. And he said to Noni, Denny and I, he said, just go down the road, there's some partners down the road, I'd like you to go and meet them. And about an hour and 20 minutes later, we were still driving south towards Orlando. But actually, we were very grumpy, and we always were prepared to turn around. But I'm very glad we didn't, because we met up with some guys in Chicago that have been in business for a long time. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was kind of 20, 30 years, you know, one of those. And one of the more sophisticated and kind of, you know, well-run organizations. They had 5 different departments. The guy showed us around everywhere. And what I want to do is show you a quick video. It's about a 12-minute video. And what they did is they actually took us through their system. And I'm going to show you the video, and then I'll let Henny take over in terms of some of the negotiations and some of the plans we've had. But I just wanted you to get a feel for the system, because we believe this is exactly what we're looking for in terms of the open transparency, so that we as partners and investors know exactly what's going on every step of the way. There's progress every week. They have weekly updates in terms of what's happening. So if you want to log in 24/7, or if you want to only look once a month, it doesn't matter. You've got access and transparency. So I just want to show you that video quickly. Just blow it up. Sorry, hang on, let me just. The speakers are waterproof speaker, which is lacquer effect, except you can't actually tell if it's up or lower or whatever.
Dan is the keeper of our system, and we're really huge on that system in this business. Like I said, we use this QuickBase. She brought it in from, I hired her a couple of years ago back out of Remax up in Detroit. He was the #1 realtor in the Midwest for foreclosures. And I asked her how he was keeping up with his 500 properties, because that's how many he had running. And she said the system. So go ahead, Dan.
This is Mark's favorite part. Yes. It's all in the system. Everything we do here, we put a system in place before we train the staff. And QuickBase allows us to do that. It's completely customizable data.
Can I just ask a question? If we want to do the books now, the record keeping back home, is that a seamless system? Can we draw the information out of this and follow the
Jump in and show them the trench right now, the way we have the UK. You got to see that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It'll give you an idea of what we can do.
So what
We can design our base.
Yeah.
So
Whatever's available here, we can,
here, there, you're
So we can design your desktop any way you want it. So you'll see. Ruth can do it in 5 minutes. She can do it right here now for you.
I will put this on YouTube so you can all watch it again if you want
You
to.
can all have your own passwords. We can take these and we can, say you want to show investors of yours one thing, but you don't want to show them another. We can do all that for you.
If you want to look into the system of the city's property,
You can do that.
You can do that.
Yep, and they love it.
Anywhere that you can get on the internet, you can log into QuickBase. Yep.
The more transparent you are with investors, we found, the more they like working with you, because, you know, like I said, once the money leaves their pocket, the reason they're investors is because they know it, they feel it leaving their pocket.
Yeah.
So if you don't show them how you can account to it, I'll tell you, they're worried.
No, I agree.
They worked hard for that shit, and they're not gonna just give it away.
So we're able to.
Some of this is behind the scenes conversation.
Itself, from here, monthly, we show deposits, withdrawals for rehab money, or for real estate money, earnest money,
So you can
whatever.
see everything that's happening, this is how we have to build pipelines, so if we get 5 million in, and this is from a client, we have to know how much we got left to buy. Because, some of them are, this is an Asia SPV, so the LLCs are every month. So they don't mix because they're different groups. The September group might have some people from the October group, but not all. So we have to keep them all separate.
Yeah.
So this is how we do it. So, you know, our goal is to buy, we got our September hit in, we got it October 10th. And by October 19th, we had it sold. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see it sitting in here in the escrow account, so we got to move it.
So we can track things as a ledger. Any of these reports on here, can be printed, emailed, you can export it to a spreadsheet, you can click the button here, all these different options that you can, go through this data.
I just ask a question. This is, obviously we can also change it to accommodate commercial properties, like office blocks and stuff like that.
Here's what I want you to think about this. When you get up in the middle of the night, because I know you're a guy that gets up in the middle of the night. Everything down this side of this program is property. Anything you want to do across the top, you can do. So if you say, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this on the report, within a day, she'll have it for you. This is another report that you can see right here. And this is how you can look at your total portfolio. You can look at all the business you're tied with, then you can look at, each investor can look at theirs. So it'll tell them how many contracts are being sent. Now, when she hits that 10 button,
You hover over and show the actual number on this bar graph, and when you click on it, it's gonna pull up the properties that are the sent contracts in your name.
and it'll take you, all those little buttons will take you to the little area, instead of going through tons of data, it'll take you right to like what we're doing in negotiations, if it's in negotiation, what we're doing in closing, what we're doing under construction. Tells you where we're at. Notes are all there. The financial one is all there. If you want hidden boxes, you don't want to show the investor this piece or that piece, we can do all that for you. We can design anything you want.
Financials are right there. Real estate costs, ROI percentage, ARV, everything is recorded in there. We find it out, we enter it into the same closing department or construction, anyone in-house here, can log in and add names to it, and it becomes our Bible in the office, because we have different departments, and we all need to work together, but we don't all need to see the same data. So this is customizable in-house as well as with the investors.
So each one of our people have different dashboards and different books. They're not looking, if they don't use,
Okay.
they don't need the financial one, they don't see that part. You know, they just see the part that you.
Right.
No, this is better.
Well, what's nice about this bar thing is what you can see, like under contract, clear to close, like Home People, we just did a major deal with Home People, all right? So they go, well, the problem we normally have is having the inventory ready for you because, for surprises. See, we give them this whole this look, they can look, when they're clear to close, they know they're 15 days out. From getting a permit, they're 15 days out to be there to start doing the demo. All right, when they see under contract, they know they're 30 days out. So they can look in there and they can see how many we got. We also are setting it up with all their SKUs, so we can put tile with their SKU number. So if they want to know how much tile they use, and we have packages, we have 5 different packages, so because we got a designer, which is his wife, and she won't do the same shit, you know. I just as have the same stuff out there, but everything's got to be different. So we got 5 different packages, but if they wanna know how many tile of this one package, they can say A package, and it'll shoot, if there's 40 properties gonna get the A package, it'll show it.
Just tell me, I mean, I think it's logically, we bought, for instance, 200 lots in Atlanta.
Okay,
And we're gonna build some of them out, so we're gonna, you know, so they invested put the money in, they've got a company where they've invested, now we've got another company that's gonna do the business and stuff. So is that possible that we can run it on the system?
It is.
To give us track for every property where we are and, you
it
know?
is, I love it, this is the best system ever.
But she spends the majority of her day working, developing it, and we have an external consultant also that's an expert on it, that we contract with, ongoing. So we put a lot of time and energy into developing it, because we know, again, going back to the system and the process, you know, if you don't have them, you know, you can only get so big. And this allows you to, we can slice and dice it 100 different ways.
This will, like these comments and that they'll show up on dashboards who didn't want to. So when you take care of them, they go away, it'll automatically email, like, they've got to set up with the vendors, it can email the vendor and tell them, okay, it's time to get your tile in there. If the drywall goes back 2 days because you got delayed, it moves the tile guy back 2 days, and then tells the tile guy you got a 2-day hold. You know, it can do all that.
Yeah.
I mean, in our inner departments, it tells us.
Can you show this line there where you show like a construction process, where you have like the
That's where we have
drywall?
configurations on just about everything, and it tracks it automatically.
I was so impressed when you said fall off, it's like, how will you know that?
Can you show that, George?
The construction.
So just what it's talking about there, if you look, I know it's not that clear, but down the bottom, they literally have like to the hour how long it takes for certain things to happen across all the different projects. Because what I was just making a comment about there is he said, you know, our call center responds within 5.7 hours or something. I was like, how did you know that? But because they track everything, they literally know all the processes, which is that kind of artificial intelligence you can keep to build upon. So,
Timeline, you mean?
You know, the projects. Whatever you do on the slide, you have PowerPoints, so it shows like, you know, the whole, you have that here as well.
You know,
The one that's under
Are we- I know
our
which one.
construction
Yeah,
project.
let's-
just quickly, do you see the companies that use it there? Google, eBay, there's some pretty powerful companies.
Then you'll be important to see
What's the
that
time?
kind of stuff.
What's that time?
202.
Okay.
We build what we call usual tasks. We know when we do construction, there's 75 usual tasks. In about 6 clicks, I can set up a new project. And it times the whole project up from beginning to end, and they're all predecessor based, you know, there's dependencies. So if I slide one thing, the rest of it all slides automatically. We resource who's gonna do that, what contractor's gonna do it, and they automatically, when they log in, they see, hey, I'm resourced for these 4 projects, here's my proposed date of completion. And the beauty is, you do it one time, and it's,
You know, we're doing, we're home Depot right now, it's major big corporation, they're not gonna be able to go back and say we need this. So we'll perform all this for them on their end, because we're after speed. Because we're trying to tell investors, I really am saying true turn, I really think we're now in a point, in about another 2 weeks, we'll be at a point where we can do 4. But we don't have to do it all the time. I'd rather come back and say I got 4 times.
You know, and maybe.
Just to let you know, we got a real quick way of buying properties, which is,
Only one was completely at a time.
I just want to show you the project flow charts that I have on.
if you just scroll down, just use the scroll on the mouse, scroll down and go through the slide. Let's get to the bottom and down to the bottom.
Another thing we do too is we get reports all on the way, okay? So every week I told you to have, everybody gets reports, which is really been very well received with our investors. Some of them will get monthly reports from some place that they did business with, some never got a report. Ours are every week.
Yeah.
This is a construction specialist talking about. And it, that's how basically our whole quick base is all set up for that now. So if you look at the first one, if you get down to like permit, all of a sudden the permit took an extra week. You slide that a week, the whole chart moves.
This one on QuickBooks.
This one's actually not in Microsoft Project, so we have the QuickBase now. That's what we've been developing. We haven't done the QuickBase order. We've set a project up in 3 clicks, and everything's done there. The beauty there is everybody can see it as opposed to some of the projects.
So basically from, the reason I just wanted to show you that was to just give you a feel for what it is. And I was quite impressed because I've used quite a few project management systems, but nothing that integrates with an accounting system as well. So this links in with QuickBooks. So being able to get into one portal, you can see exactly what's going on, and the whole thing can be managed in one area. Would you mind just updating them in terms of the conversation you've been having and some of your thoughts in terms of actually getting access to the software and the meeting you've got on Tuesday?
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I think I just want to apologize for the quality here. The intention was not to present the software and the system to you guys, but I was just to give you a feel of what we're looking at. I think, I've learned one lesson in business. If you try to manage through people, you're not going to make it. You need a system because it's a lot of stuff that we're looking at the moment. We really made some big steps forward in the year. And I think we're sitting on 250 stands that we need to, lots that we need to build out and sell and manage on behalf of clients. So there's a lot of stuff taking place, and obviously we want to grow that. So we need a platform that can really support us in managing this. And I mean, we are playing open cards because we see you guys as our partners in this, and we want to that you will also be able to lock into the system, see I'm involved in this property or this house or this neighborhood, exactly what's going on with my investment. So this was, we had limited time to look at the system, so it was never intention to understand it fully. We had to catch a plane and we had only an hour to look through the system. So he went very briefly through it, but conceptually, I mean, I could grasp what was going on, and that is exactly what we need. After our return, I sent them a mail, and it seems to they're quite happy to sell the system to us, the use of it, because they've got technical people backing it up, they can train us, and even if we go into construction phases, they've got technical people afoot, they've got complete, interior designers, they've got architects, they've got contractors, they've got everybody on board that we can learn from their experience. So the first step is now to buy the system, the use of the system with their technical support, and I've already started talking to them about buying a franchise, for instance, for Atlanta with minimum. And if we really want to grow it, this will be the basis on which we plan our future growth, which will be totally transparent, 100% seamless, from the construction right through to your financials that we're producing at the end of the month, for our partners and our investors. So I think that's where we're standing. I think we've got a conference call on Tuesday set up to talk through the system in much more detail, and then we'll start the due diligence and get our people involved to look into much more detail as far as the system is concerned.
So can I ask you, who's going to manage the system over there?
Well, I think it will be under John Chin, and then obviously we will appoint the necessary people to manage it, because the system is as good as the stuff that you read in there. Yeah, so once we know exactly what we can do with the system, then obviously we'll appoint the necessary people to make sure we collect all the information, the right stuff is fed into the system, and that we can get the reports.
I mean, I look at that as that is actually a site manager's control document. So you need you need someone sitting at that project.
Exactly.
So that'll be Brian.
That will be Brian.
Brian is the building contractor, and he'll be using the system as well.
So part of the thing, if we decide to go that route, then Brian will get on board. I mean, he will manage the site. Then obviously there's financial input, there's the marketing side. There's a lot of stuff, people that will work on the system. That's what I like. It will be one platform serving everybody, and all the contractors, everybody that's involved, and also give us the ability to communicate back home with our partners.
What sort of costs?
I've got no idea.
Because quite often these they're costly, and the real issue is implementation, execution.
Well, Peter, you see, the thing is that we can answer that. Brendan's found out already. It's just QuickBase is the system. We can just go get it if we want. It's $300 and use it. But that's what Henny's talking about is if we work with the G-Slow guys, they've already created all the triggers. The implementation, exactly what you're talking about, has already all been set up. So that we're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And that's what the meeting's about on Tuesday.
It's duplicating what they have into our.
I think, just to answer your question, we're balancing this because we also went to them and said, listen, if you buy the system from you, if you provide the technical support, if you send the same consultant from QuickBooks that help them to set up the whole thing, what are you going to charge us for that? And we'll compare that, doing it on our own, which might take us 6 months, a year, 2 years to get it onto the same level, or buy the complete, thing with technical support and the experience.
Having put these things in oneself before, it's quite a long and tedious task. It's costly. You need the people to implement and run. So, just having the system is one thing. To actually make it work, and then to filter it in with your financial systems. There are costs involved, there's a whole lot of things.
I agree 100%. And we might not go, it's possible that we not go for the full system at what
Well, this is it. I mean,
in
you go
level,
for
we
what
buy
bells
part
and
of
whistles.
it and we grow as we go and as we need it. I mean, to buy everything at once and we're not going to use it, I mean, it's senseless. So I can't give you exact detail on the implementation and strategies that we will talk about this week, but all I know, we need something like this. We can't manage it, ad hoc basis, and we lose this and we let
This
that.
is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most important thing, and what you're raising, Peter, is vital. But this fits in with the vision of what we're trying to achieve. You mean, and you've got to have a solid
I mean,
foundation.
that's given that.
Yeah, but I understand. But what I'm trying to get at is that yes, it does take time. Yes, it does take effort. Yes, it does take money. But we need that. We have to. If you have to have a solid foundation, otherwise you can't build a solid building. It's simple, So that the reason, again, just to reiterate what Henny said, we just wanted to give you an overview in terms of we've actually got a system. We've got Salesforce, which is one of the most powerful systems in the world. But the problem with Salesforce is that it doesn't link into an accounting system. This is the first time we've got one that's integrated and has, from beginning to end. And so it really does provide that vision in terms of the transparency of what we're trying to achieve. Because it gives us the control, and when I say us, all of us the control, and then the transparency to see what's going on. So,
are you going to produce financials monthly?
Yes.
How quickly will you have that out?
We should, sorry.
It's going to be a 1 month, yeah, so we'll, as it loads, you'll be able to
So
log in
automatically, so
anytime.
once you have a cost block and someone is going to feed that information into.
Exactly.
What did you mention the guy's name?
Yeah, and it's coming.
So that will be updated on a regular basis.
Correct. The idea, what these guys are doing, which I think is a good idea, is they actually update the system every Wednesday. So that all the investors know that every Wednesday, by 12 o'clock on Wednesday, I don't know exactly, that it's updated, but not just the financials, like even pictures. If you're building a building, they'll put pictures up every week, whatever. So it's quite nice because, let's be honest, if you're at home and the building's just down the road, you probably drive past every weekend just to check it out. None of us have that kind of luxury. So we want to make sure that the IT system allows us that luxury. So that's the intention of where we're going with this. Okay.
Scott, just one thing. Will this system highlight red flags if there's on all the projects where it must also pay or save you some money as well when you do that?
No, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying where things like milestones that...
Yeah, or something went wrong, we can take action to save some money or...
The construction program, that's what he's really talking about, is obviously to monitor it.
No, 100%, but that's where, but again, the beauty is that it's got that system to allow you to do it. We put the project plan in.
Is that going to be John's job as such?
Yes and no. We were talking this morning about it. John, we need a QS involved as well. Okay. An independent QS on that side. Because John's background is not, he's not a construction guy. He's not a QS. So that's where
I think there's a lot of planning that needs to take place. I think we went into the American market and we were sort of feeling our way what's available, what we think can work. But now during the last 3 months, I would say, we really have decided this is the opportunities and we're going to go for those opportunities. The next step now is to build the capacity, the human capacity. Obviously we need to go, what we can afford. But I think that's the next step, and we've already started to put the structure in place to cover all angles and make sure we've got the necessary human capacity and skills in the organisation to cover all angles and make sure that we can deliver on all levels. But it's a growing process. Obviously, we can't just go and appoint people and, it's cost. We need to grow it gradually. But I think we've got a very clear vision of where we go. We're going to play in the residential, and we will end up with probably with 300, 400 houses by middle end of this year. And I think we're going to own it with you, and we need to manage it. And this system will also allow us to do that efficiently, get all the information back, know where the rent is being received, whether there's any reparations and refurbishments or whatever cost in terms of the maintenance of the building. All of that will be into the system and everybody can see. And that's what I'd like to, that's one of our sort of strategic objectives, is to be as transparent as possible, that everybody knows what's going on. We've got nothing to hide. We want to partner, we want to work, and we want to make a success of this, and that's the way to do it. Because if people don't have all the information,
it's really about measurement. At the moment, so far, there is no measurement.
Exactly.
And this is absolutely critical. And without it, you're lost.
I agree 100%. If you don't measure, you don't know.
Read emails that I get emails, whatever.
So if you could just give me another minute or two, I just want to talk about North Dakota, because I think that's another area which I think when my first visit there was in July this year, and I was, like everybody else, blown away with what's going on there. It's basically a construction site for 400 miles. Each square mile they spent $18 million in terms of drilling and putting stuff up. It's just, incredible. But sometimes you get carried away by all of this activity. And, when we came back, we decided one of the opportunities could be a commercial plane in North Dakota where we built offices. I'm a little bit afraid I want to steer away from the residential, because everybody is onto that bandwagon. And they build rubbish and they build good stuff. And I think eventually you will be in a position where the guys with the man camps and the cheap housing will compete with you. And I'm just afraid that we might end up with properties that, we can't rent out. And, nobody is controlling the numbers. So it could very, very easily happen that, you've got the oversupply, because nobody's controlling it. Everybody is just building all over the place. And then we looked at the commercial, and I've asked John to do some homework for us. And on the recent visit, a number of facts came to my attention, which I think is mission critical for us. One, how long is this plane? That's all plane. Are we sure it's going to be, because people are talking a lot, this guy say it's going to be for the next 50 years, and that one for 100, and this one talking about 18 billion barrels. Eventually I got hold of a report from KPMG, which says it's secure now for 10 years. We know that the activity there will continue at least for the next 10 years. But that's very important information. 10 years in terms of commercial development in an office block is a very short time. Secondly, the second piece of information that was very valuable for me is that the demographics is that two things. Currently on the 10-year growth, secure growth plan, there will be 68,000 people living in that area, in the two towns. That's not a lot of people. 68 is not enough. Second very important thing is that of the people that's going to move there, 50% is going to be technical and blue collar. 25 is going to be civil servants, and only 25 is going to be other jobs and other opportunities. I'm not prepared to go and build a commercial building with a 10-year sort of view, and with 75% of the people moving, they'll not be potential employees. So when I decided, I think this is not what we need to do. We need to make two fundamental changes to our strategy. One is go shorter, and secondly go industrial. Because if I'm a technical guy, I need what they call in America flex space. It's a little office in front with either a workshop, a warehouse, a place where you buy and sell stuff and put pipes and equipment and stuff that you're going to use on the oil rigs, the drilling equipment there. Then we found, and I think we will supply you with the information now, I met with one of the master plan developers there, and they've got industrial land. On a corner, a nice piece, and it's scalable. So he made available to us then 10 lots of 1 acre each. We built, it's like industrial, only the box, and then we found a buyer, we sell it, and then we move on to the next one.
Mini factories.
Sorry?
Mini factories,
Mini factories, sort of warehouses, flex offices. It's about a 10,000 square foot, 1,000 square meters. It's not expensive, and we can make about a 40% sort of return on those. And we flip them, we build them one by one by one. So what is the strategy? Short them, we sell off plan, all we do is just the box. We don't do the tenant installation until we find a buyer, and then we move on to the next one.
The reason we need to build the box is because everyone in North Dakota says they're going to do something and doesn't do it. So to try and get a buyer or a tenant prior to actually having something in the ground is virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to have something physical there.
So I just want that everybody's clear on that. I think we've changed our strategy. We're not going to go into residential, we're not going to go into the commercial, but I think there's an opportunity, and we don't need to spend a lot of money. The deal is, because the other thing is, as far as I'm concerned, if I go into an area, I want somebody to commit with me. I don't want to buy the stuff they don't want. I want them to put the money where their mouth is. In this case, that guy will put he'll make the land available. He'll put 50% of the cash in, and we put the balance in, the 50. So we're absolutely partners, and he is into it as much as we do. And we roll it one after the other, and that is sort of the play and the strategy that we're going to follow there. And the returns look good.
So there's a very significant lower level of capital we would be putting in compared to, say, the office block, which is a big chunk of capital up front.
Absolutely.
And we're just putting in small amounts and rolling those small amounts through, so our capital exposure is really quite low.
Quite less. We're talking now about $400,000, 500 backs per unit instead of 8 million for the commercial.
Is that the same piece of land that?
The same master plan, but just a little bit back to the other thing. What sort of what upset me, because the commercial lot that we had there, they offered to us, they're now going to build a truck stop on the corner there. I didn't want an office block next to a truck stop. So when I saw that, I said, this is out. This is going to affect the whole area.
It was originally a hotel, and now it changed to truck stop.
So,
difference like
What's the small cost or time scale to roll over?
it's about 3 months, 3-4 months.
Okay.
Can be as quick as 4 months if you guys find immediately. If you find a buyer immediately, if not, then it can be a little bit longer.
And you
But
just
I think at least twice a year we can roll our money to the next lot.
And how long do you just continue doing that for what period of time? 5 years?
Well, we've got 10 lots, lined up and committed to our project. And obviously there's a lot more if we want to do more.
So you just keep going?
We just keep going, there's huge demand there, and until we've got more clarity. A very important factor that you must just keep in the back of your mind. At the moment, with the technology available, they can only extract 5% of the available oil. 5%. By the end of the year, we will stand on a million barrels a day that they pump. And that's only 5% of the current rigs of the available oil. So as they improve the technology to extract more oil, I think the longevity of the project will stretch out over the long. But I'm not prepared to risk now, and anything can go wrong. We don't know whether they're going to develop it, how fast they're going to develop it, whether other things come into play. So my view there is it's industrial play, and we must go short term and get out of it, not commit ourselves for long term.
Is it sold on plan, so you're not speccing a building?
We'll have to, the first one I think we'll have to spec. We'll have to, because the land is available, we're going to spend about $300,000 to put the box up. And then I think they're going to share half, so that's 150. So we're only going to commit 150 until we sell it. Then we will know, is there a demand, how big is the demand? And I think Scott has just sort of alluded to that a little bit. There's one, I'll answer that other questions now. There's a estate agent that dominates the market, but she hasn't got the commercial and industrial sort of part in the business. So we're going to set that up where they spend a couple of dollars to get that going. Because I want to understand the heart of the business, what's going on, who's phoning, what space are they looking for, how many houses they're renting, how many houses they're selling. If you know that information, we can start planning and we know what's going on. sitting in South Africa, think you know what's going on there because you visited 2 days every 3 months. It's just not good enough. I want somebody there close to the fight, knowing what's going on a daily basis in that place and advising us. And from that, we can then build strategies. There's a lot of activity. There could be a hang of a future there. But currently, it's just too early in the development phase of the thing to really spend big money and commit ourselves long term in terms of that. Sorry, I wanted to answer.
The land partner, when does he get his money out?
At the end. All of them. Nothing gets paid before we've sold the property. No, they're not going to take me. I'm too clever for that. They're not going to leave me with my money and they run. No. We all share in the end, and if there's a loss, they're going to share in the loss with me. I'm not going to pay it.
Sorry, is that in Lisbon?
Watford.
This is Watford, yeah. The first place would be Watford City. Because Williston's got a little bit of industrial already. Watford's got nothing. Nothing. So there's a huge potential. On that corner of that master plan development, there's a bypass, a truck bypass, and there's 18,000 trucks stopping at that road a day. 18,000. That's without the other vehicles, all the other traffic. 18,000 per day.
The ruts in the tar,
It's double.
It's double 8 to 12 months because they hit 9 to 10 inches deep in the tar, where the cars can't actually climb out of the rut. So the place is incredible.
It's 50% more than peak traffic in April to Durban on the N3. That's just trucks, not cars and buses, just trucks.
Corvettes, yeah. The GM dealership there sells more Corvettes than any other dealership in the country.
But I mean, also just some interesting stats. Texas is where they pull out the most oil in America, and they've got something like 50,000 wells that are pulling out about 150,000 barrels a day. And North Dakota is pulling out 98,000 barrels a day with like 4,500 wells.
That's 5% of the oil that's going
Yeah, the average well in Texas is pulling out 200 barrels a day. The average well in North Dakota is pulling out between 4,000 to 6,000 barrels a day. Just to explain the difference between the two, you know what I mean, the contrast.
Is the area expanding?
Small manufacturers.
Intensify the
Who do you identify as the end user of it? I mean, when you're in an industry that is a mega player industry, so who are the small guys that are requiring these manufacturers?
The guys who sold spades.
Spades.
This is
I looked at you, oil was spades.
There's a lot of engineering shops, truck repair shops, there's a lot of light engineering, that type of stuff that they require for all of it. There's a ton of that stuff moving up into there, they all need space.
To be honest, I can give you those numbers. There's on average 2 people work on every drilling well, and there's 28 support staff. Independent contractors, so people that like run the trucks and the water and the sand they've got to use for the fracking and all that type of stuff. And they're all the, so they're not the Exxon Mobil of the world. They subcontractors for the Exxon Mobil. So yeah,
building infrastructure, all the gas, all the water, all the fuel, they'll have to build a pipe network because they're transported by truck at the moment, all those stuff, those excavators, it's a massive infrastructure they're going to build. So all of those people supporting those industries will be there.
The executive guy that we actually went into, he is the first person to start a new oil refinery in America in 38 years, 34 or 38 years, something like that. And they're building an oil refinery up in North Dakota because at the moment they've got to ship all the oil down to Oklahoma City or Denver to get it converted there and then ship it back as fuel. So it's actually some of the highest cost of fuel that you buy to put in the trucks that are there, even though they're taking the oil out the ground.
And then, if you're looking at the manufacturers, and you're saying that industrial has the same lifespan as a commercial. Again, are you not going to be landing up with guys looking to rent and you get stuck with the asset? Because they're going to view it the same. In 10 years' time, they're out of here. What do they want a building for? So you don't want to land up in that space owning light industrial.
Well, I think the worst case scenario is that we're going to end up with one unit which costs us 400,000 rand, which we rent.
Okay, so
there's no other commitment land, building the box, and if we don't sell the box, we can revisit our strategy. So it's not going to work, then we leave it, we sell that one, and we get out of it. We don't need to buy land, we don't need to make huge commitments in the future. It's get available, it becomes available as we build and as we sell.
So the land deal with the land partner is just one piece at a time.
One piece at a time.
Basically, got a letter of intent to go.
The second one is going to start building, if you sell that on the face value of the first one,
And if we battle to sell, or we can't sell it, or it takes a long time, we don't leave it.
Walk away.
Walk away.
Are you saying there are roughly about 20 years of reserves there? That's happened 5% up at the moment.
So there's about, I mean, the reserves will last 100 years. But what they do is they drill into the ground and they leave their little, one of those donkeys, they just suck it up. So you don't need all the guys in, because the big flush into the city is when everyone's drilling. Right. They're doing the initial fracking and they're drilling that little pipe down to then suck the oil out. Once everything's stabilized and you've got all your wells dropped, I mean, then it's no longer that initial primary population.
And what period is that? Is that a 5 or 10 year period?
So that's the 10-year period that they say. To drill the holes is a 10-year period, and then afterwards, I mean, it's going to last for 100 years.
They need 50,000 wells. They've got 4,500 to 5,000 now, and they can do 2,000 wells a year. So, that's the maths.
And then, and if you had then a technology tweak, then it's dependent on whether you need to do another hole for new technology.
Which is what they've done already. They're already going back and refracking some of the older areas because they've got newer technology that can extract more. And there's 17 different levels, and at the moment they're only in the top 2. So there's pretty much common sense as the technology gets better, they'll even go back to where they currently are. They're already, is it 1 mile or 2 miles below ground?
So they're going to be between 5 and 8 kilometers down and then horizontal. Imagine drilling a hole for 8 kilometers down and then horizontal. I mean, it's massive technology that we're talking about, and but they don't know. They don't know. They drill one hole, I believe, which is I can't remember, 26,000 meters. 26,000 kilometers. I'm not sure. It's very deep, so it's to a level where the drill bits then melt. It's so hot they can't drill there. But that one is pumping, I'm not sure. Can you remember that guy that senator told me about that? I can't remember, but it is just amazing how much oil we can get out there. And it's the sweetest, cleanest crude oil in the world. You can put it as it comes out of the ground directly into the engine.
It's actually got a different price point to the other oil that's coming out of Texas and everything at a much higher price point. I can't remember the exact price, but it's about $6 or $8 more per barrel than anything else. Very sweet crude.
It's going to be look. I mean, what are the other opportunities? Obviously, it's a growing town and industry there, but I mean, what about the entertainment sector? What about?
So my dream, that's what I could say, what that town needs is a casino.
What's your question? We're asking for like retail shops. Like, North Dakota, there's 2 things about North Dakota that I just wanted to mention for the short form. Firstly, Warren Buffett, 2.5 years ago, bought all the railway systems into and out of North Dakota. Spent $47 billion. In less than 2 years, he's made his money back 100%. He hasn't sold it, just in literally in operating profits out of it. Okay. So, I mean, he's the type of guy that's also doing his research, and that gives me a level of comfort, but this is not just a kind of a fly-by-night type thing. The second thing is, going back to your question, Alan, is that, again, we kind of want to entrench ourselves in North Dakota. We're building the right relationships, and we certainly don't have all the answers right now. But we want to, it's an area that's really exciting because America is such a big place that not everyone can be an expert everywhere. So like you ask really intelligent people in Atlanta, have you been to North Dakota? And they're like, no. And that's great actually. You know what I mean? Because you can be a big fish in a small pond, and kind of dominate that market. And so we've looked at, I know Henny and John went and looked at 2020, which is the medical building. So we're looking at all different things. Would you mind, Brendan, just showing that video, the master plan? Because I think it's quite important. And also, when we talk about a developer that's sophisticated, this guy that's one of the partners that's putting this Hunters Run project together is actually out of Phoenix. He's built 110,000 homes to date. He's been in the industry 30 plus years. He's built 8 million square feet of retail. So I mean, when we say he's played around, got experience, that's quite a few homes, So, and he's the guy behind this project basically. Right next to the golf course, which is vertical as well. That's that ring road that Kenny was talking about. You can see it literally on the corner there of the plot. They've got 36 earth-moving machines working day and night at the moment.
We were there on a Sunday and those were working.
They work day and night, they have lights up at
Just
night.
leveling site for
Yeah, putting all the infrastructure and the roads and the services and everything.
But within the week that I went with you and then I went with Henny, there were already like 6 houses that they had done up.
What percent of it is actually built?
Nothing. No, they're putting, they're literally putting the infrastructure in as we speak. They've had a really bad year. They can only build there for 6 months of the year, because for the other 6 months, the frost is 8 feet deep. And this year, in the 6 months they can build, they had the worst, they had more rain in 1 year than they've had in the last 100 years put together. So for 3 months they couldn't do anything. So that's why they do working day and night now to try and, because they've got to get into the ground before the frost comes at the end of October, November, like now pretty much. Because once they've got the foundations in, they can go vertical. But until they've in got all the stuff in the ground. So.
They can work through the winter.
Yeah. As long as they've got the foundations in. So that, that just, again, we can send you a copy of the video, but it just gives you an idea of the kind of overview. And like we said originally, would you mind just, Brendan, just being able to pull up literally on the plan?
I just want to make another comment on the short-term strategy. I mean, in the world today, 10 years is a very long time. And I spoke to one of the guys there, and I know that, fuel, they're working on electricity at the moment, and hydrogen is the next phase.
Did you want to go back?
It could very well happen that in the next 10 years, because I know from next year, if my information is correct, they will have the Formula One for electric cars. And I think that's going to put the development of electric motors on the fast track. So I'm a little bit concerned, that going longer term, based whole development on one industry and the future of one industry, which is the energy industry. I think it's a little bit risky to do that. So I would prefer go short term, go in and go out. And as we learn in the process, there could be other longer term opportunities, and as we understand better what's going on there might be longer term opportunities that we could look at. But with the information and knowledge that we've now, I think it should be in, out, short, make your money and move on. And then if there's other opportunities, we can look at that later.
Just to explain this plan, so this is the road coming down here. This is the intersection that Henny was talking about, where the 18,000 trucks are coming through. Now, the original site that we locked up was this one over here, where we were going to put the commercial office park, and this was supposed to be a hotel, which is now a truck stop. Okay. So, and the area that Henny's talking about is along here, which is zoned for light industrial. So if you remember that thing, this is all the commercial, this here is all the residential, and then this is the mixed use and light industrial. So it'll actually be along this main road. And then this road at the moment, you would turn right and actually go down there, and that's the golf course, just an interest, which is the most affluent area of North Dakota, if that's anything to go by, but yeah. And, but what they are doing is they're putting a ring road around, so you miss all those trucks don't go through the town. And that's literally extending on here. So that's why this is such a strategic site, basically, just in terms of its layout.
Ella, just to ask, I'm not sure we'll ask about the deal flow. This is in Watford City. They've got the bigger piece, which I paid 55 million dollars for in Williston, which is a bigger town next to the new airport. They're building a new upgraded airport. Now, if you see how remote that area is, I think a Euro City, Aero City, around the airport, it's going to be a very important play there for Williston. So if we are successful, because it's the same guys developing this, that's doing the 158 acre developed master plan development, what fits in Williston next to the airport. So if we are successful here, we can just keep on rolling that model, and we've already spoken to them about that we get first choice in terms of all the light industrial or whatever we want in terms of the other development. That they're going to only start working on the infrastructure next year, I think, April.
It's just a big farm field at the moment, like rolling.
But can you imagine? I mean, we can calculate that. You know, that's my other concern. Is I mean, they paid 55 million for 158 acres. I assume that once it's serviced, it's going to cost you about $150 million for those lots and stats. So the land cost is going to be a sizable portion of the total development cost.
Okay, so Brendan, would you mind taking us through the document you put together?
Yeah. So everybody's got one of these, sorry, I'm going to I'll grab one.
I've got your own.
I've got plenty of thanks, guys. Essentially, in the opening section there, we put together a marketing proposal as IPS in order to get the contract from my bank to resell the lots that we bought in Westminster. They're on the golf course. Has everybody seen anything related to the Westminster subdivision? Anybody? Have you all seen it? Okay, cool. Basically, it's a subdivision that we were able to buy out directly from the bank. It was one of those situations where the developer went bankrupt when the music stopped in America. And there were 66 lots available over there on a golf course. The golf course had gone bankrupt too, and it got bought out by somebody about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and he has since fixed it up. He launched it again now in October this year, and when we were actually there, people were there playing golf. We saw probably about 25, 30 people there.
We've got 88 members.
We've got 88 members already, but I mean, there were about 20 people actually playing golf on the day we were there, and it was a weekday, so it was fantastic. And it's looking beautiful and everything. And while we were there, what was interesting to see is the response of people that came with us to actually have a look at the opportunities in Atlanta, and they really loved what they saw there on Westminster. So we were able to lock that one up, and then based on all of the research that we did, we decided to sell those lots out and then help individual investors build on them sometime in the future after about 18 months. Because there's that soil erosion facility is in the top left corner of the subdivision. And now that facility, we've managed to negotiate with the city to get it moved within 18 months. We actually have that in writing from them. So they will be moving their people from that facility so that we now have, because at the moment their trucks are driving right down the center of that road that runs through the middle of the two sections of the subdivision. So we've negotiated with them to get that moved within about 18 months. Which means after that, the land immediately goes up in value. We've already seen it go up in value anyway. What was quite interesting though, when we had Kathy staying in the bus with us, is we asked her the question, because we gave her our stock sheet of all the prices that we paid for and what we were willing to sell them on for. And she was immediately like, guys, these are way too cheap, you're leaving too much meat on the bone. And we were like, look, that's what we got it for, that's what we're happy to sell them for. And she said basically, she could sell them in the local market for between $30,000 and about $50,000, depending on its size and position on the fairway or south facing or whatever the case may be. So we decided to sell them on and help investors do that. And then we prepared the marketing proposal here as IPS in order to get the contract to sell those out. And we put together quite a comprehensive plan. Luckily, Scott's done a hell of a lot of launches. Jaco's done a lot of launches. I'm skilled at marketing, so I put my little spin on the two. And if you have a read through it, I know that everybody got a copy of it on email, but if nothing else, it's nice to have it on paper and you can actually have a read through what we're prepared to do over here. So we're doing some trailer billboards. We actually have a trailer billboard going down to Knysna. We're going to be doing a bit of an exhibition in Knysna over the December holiday period. Scott's living down there now, and he found a fantastic position on Teesum Island, and we've got quite a comprehensive little marketing strategy going out to cover the whole of Knysna. So we've got a trailer billboard there, we've got the exhibition centre that we've set up there, we've got little table talker inserts going into the 4 major restaurants in Knysna, the top class restaurants, luckily Kelly's uncle owns them, so Sirocco, 34 Degrees South, Top Post, and what's the other one? Strata. So they really are the top 4 restaurants in Knysna. So we have quite a good position to be able to leverage off that holiday market. And what's interesting is the quality of the people that we're meeting down in Knysna seems to be pretty high. So that's quite exciting. We also have our launch going out next week. So part of the marketing proposal is the launch for that Westminster subdivision. And we're going to have that running Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday and Tuesday are in Joburg and Pretoria. I think some of you are probably coming. Then we go down to Durban on Thursday, and then Cape Town Friday. Wednesday, Durban. Geez, this week's going to be manic. So we put together the entire launch for it. We haven't done yet, purely because of the demand. You'll notice that we've mentioned the call center, we've mentioned our database in there, we've mentioned doing some radio advertising. What we found is we try to leverage off as much as we could without spending that much money to see what kind of demand was, and the demand's been pretty incredible. We've been back a week, and I think we've already sold about 18 of those lots. Last count yesterday was 18, and there's one more this morning, so it's about 19 at the moment. So out of 66, that's pretty incredible to do in 1 week, and we haven't even launched, so that's only in pre-launch. So Scott had a bright idea to put the prices up, so don't tell anybody else. Yeah. So looking for more returns. No, there's not much demand, hey, the prices must go up. But not substantially. It was a couple of percentage points, just to keep the stuff moving in the right direction.
In any development, if you've got 66 things, you want to phase them out. So we built it out into 3 phases.
Yeah.
So the first 22 is the first phase. It's common sense, basically.
And if you want to have a look at the project brief that we put together in order to raise the money, that's also in this document. Then if you go through a little bit further, the next project brief is for Heritage Point, which is in Covington in Atlanta. And some people were privileged enough to take a drive through that with us while we were there. Covington's one of the hottest areas that we've been selling as RPS, selling individual houses for people to own in their personal portfolio in order to rent out. I actually bought my first property in Atlanta there in Covington as well. So it's a really, really hot area. And John found this subdivision where there are 34 lots that are developed, as in, when we talk developed, there all services are done, like roads, sewage, electricity, water, that type of stuff. And then undeveloped lots is just basically raw land. So we've got 92 undeveloped acres. But on those undeveloped acres, as part of the whole subdivision, they've already approved 75 lots. We did the pricing to get those lots developed, and we came in at about $20,000 roughly. So the plan over here, you'll notice that there are 2 project briefs in here. One of them is the approved one, and then if you scroll to the next one, it's the not approved one. So as the investment committee, we sat down together and we looked at the 2 different scenarios, and we said, okay, well, where do the risks lie between the 2 scenarios? The first one is where we're buying them out and reselling those lots to individual investors and then helping them build either a house to rent or to live in themselves, or to resell for a profit. So that one made a hell of a lot of sense, because in terms of our timeline of holding the capital in the project, it's really, really short. So we can create those returns easily and quickly and still partner with the individual owner of the land to help them build out those lots. The second one was where we held the lots. We held the risk in it for about 5 years, because the absorption rate in that area would take about 5 years to build those 34 houses out and sell them into the local market, because they're priced at a point that's slightly higher than we would want to sell through the RPS network. So there, it meant we have to be in for a hell of a lot longer, and we have to raise a little bit more money, because we have to raise about $400,000 to $500,000 more over and above the cost of the land in order to build the first 2 houses, measure the response in the markets, roll that capital into building another 2 houses once we've sold those 2. So it would mean over a period of about 5 years we would have built up the entire subdivision. But in that 5-year period, I was talking to John, and in the US at the moment they're sitting in a situation where the interest rates have been low for a hell of a long time. And the only place they can really go is up, and they've already had a percentage point movement up in June this year. So he says that that is going to have an effect on the capital growth of the market over the foreseeable future. So we don't want to be in it for that long period of time. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting in that situation where we might be under that, under that risk. So we said, okay, well, if that's true, then we need to adjust accordingly, and that's why we decided to rather sell them out, remove that risk from ourselves, but still have the ability to joint venture with anybody to build those houses in order to create profit in the market locally.
It sounds like it's a similar strategy on Heritage Point as there is on Oak Forest.
It's exactly the same strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
So the one that was approved is that one, selling them out and building them out. And it's also, the reason it's slightly different to Oak Forest is Oak Forest has a lot of meat on the bone because of the type of subdivision that it is. There, the houses prices were at between $350,000 and about $450,000 to $500,000. So they're really, really expensive houses. Whereas Heritage Point, the price points are between $170,000 and about $200,000. So in terms of the amount of percentage points where we can actually create profit by selling those houses out, is it's slightly smaller on Heritage Point than it is on Oak Forest for the same amount of work. You still need to build a house.
So
Oak Forest you can create a lot more for the same amount of work.
Where we are on pitch with Oak Forest and Westlands, we own all the lots. Where are we on ownership in the Heritage Point lots?
We've got it under contract at the moment. We're closing on the 13th of December, and we've got about, at this point I think it's about $230,000 applied to the project, and we need to close, in order to close on it, we need about $547,000. So we're still in the process of raising capital.
How many lots is that?
It's for the 34 lots plus the 92 acres. So we've got the entire, basically if we boil down to, if we exclude the 92 acres completely, it's 15,000 per lot. But if we include the 92 acres and sell that out, it boils down to a cost per lot of about $8,000 each, roughly. So it's we're getting them pretty cheap. And that's why it made a hell of a lot of sense. Because at the moment in the market over there, they're already starting to push. I mean, we had an offer on 14 lots through Brian a couple of months ago on a property for $11,000 a lot, and then we upped it to $12,000. The bank sent an appraiser out. The appraiser came back and said no, they're worth $20,000. So they said, look, they'll take 19 or something like that. And we weren't prepared to pay that at that particular time, and we pulled out of that deal. So the price points are moving. The banks are smartening up to this purely because it's supply and demand. A lot of people are starting to buy up those subdivisions now, especially the ones that are already developed. Because you'll find that in order for us to drill down to the projects that we actually have on the table now, we've vetted out, I think, about 140 different opportunities. And some of them have the zoning in place, like they're 92 acres. And then some of them have the zoning and they've got the roads cut, but they're only dirt roads. Some of them have zoning, roads cut, and services, or they've got to do septic tanks or something along those lines. So each one is a slightly different grade of gap, or how far they are along in the project. So we looked for the ones that were the closest to completion, so we could get the most value out in the shortest amount of time. And that's why we drilled it down to the ones that we actually have on the table. Then a little bit further on down the line is some plans. Now these plans were put together by Brian, the builder, for a house that he's currently building. He's building quite a few of these houses up in the Aspen, and it's very similar to what we intend to build in Oak Forest. So if you have a look at that, you'll get a very good idea. It's about a 3,600 square foot house, with about 360 square meters. So it's a big, beautiful house. To build that would cost anywhere between $65 and about $70 per square foot, which is about 7,000 rand a square meter, roughly. So you can get an idea of the types of plans that he's putting together and what the house will look like at the end in Oak Forest. And that's pretty much this document. It gives you a pretty good idea of each one of the projects that we're busy with right now.
So,
Yeah.
how many square meters is the house?
360 square meters, approximately.
Multiply that by 7.
About 7. Or
What are you doing? I don't know, we're going to multiply 3,600 square feet by 70.
So, so it's about $200,000 to build it.
Yeah.
2.5
Yeah, it's about $250,000 to build. So with the cost of the land, we're in there at about 285, 290 thereabouts, depending on the finishes of the house. And that's why selling that in the local market at a very low point of 350,000 is very easy and very doable. So that's why Oak Forest makes a hell of a lot of sense. The individual, the actual numbers, we've actually got them built out on a project brief as well. But it wasn't finished design for tonight, but we will have that for Monday. And I don't know, you need to get a copy of that for next week. I'll have that for you next week as soon as John's finished with it on the design side. Thanks.
Yes. Tell me, what's driving the market or coming in that area? Is there, the people, you have to sell it to somebody that's working in the area?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, because I was chatting with John quite a lot about this on Tuesday night while we were going through the numbers and preparing everything for today. And Covington's become like a hotspot both for institutional investors, the Colony Capital, the Blackstones, those people that are buying in order to rent out. The foreign investors like us, we've done very, very well out of there. And then individual homeowners are buying over there. Its proximity to Atlanta is really, really good because the I-20 runs from southeast up into Atlanta. And it's about a 25-minute drive from Covington city centre, but if you're like 5 miles out from Covington city centre, you've got to kind of do one of those windies up to the I-20 and then catch it into Atlanta. So it's a really nice homeowner subdivision that a lot of the institutional investors have come into, and it's created quite a lot of growth in that area as a result. But thanks to that, a lot of homeowners are also buying there.
Yeah, they invest there, but is that the right side of Atlanta? Is that where the new work opportunities going to be created? What you need the people to come and stay there.
I think Atlanta's a big place, and when when you come with us and you're driving around, it's quite weird. And anyone who's been there, you're driving and you almost feel like you're in the farm fields, because you're in the residential communities. But every time you stop and you talk to somebody, so listen, where's the highway? Where's the job opportunities? Where's the schools? Everything's built, and not everyone. It's not like South Africa where they all try and commute in Sandton to work. There's a huge amount of job opportunities. So as an example, there's a big film studio that's down in the southeast that's just come into the area, which is actually taking on Hollywood, and they're just, what's that show, Dead Man Walking?
Yeah, Walking Dead. Has anybody seen The Walking Dead? Yeah, they filmed that in Atlanta, and they've actually bought a house there in one of those subdivisions.
Something like 35,000 people are going to be employed, in that over the next. So my point being is that Atlanta is very diversified, a lot of different industries. 75% of the Fortune 500 companies are based in Atlanta. And so it's not a case of, there's not like one area that is the good side or the bad side, in terms of job opportunities. And it really actually comes down more to the schools, that people determine where they want to live, whether they're a tenant or a buyer, because the schools determine the quality of education that kids can get. And so what we've done a lot of work on is understanding the school districts and where the good schools are. Because that's actually what drives demand more than your job opportunity. People are more interested in living in the right suburbs, send their kid to the right school, and they'll commute to work if they have to. And so that's a quite an.
And then also affordability of quality of life, because for example that building that we looked at, that Bruce is putting up now, that $50 million building that Scott was talking about. It's in a really beautiful part of Midtown in Atlanta, really high-end stuff. And to rent a 2-bedroom apartment that they're building there now, which is about 70 square meters, so it's relatively small, would cost you about $1,500 to $1,800 a month. Whereas, as you know, if you're staying in a subdivision in Covington, you're paying $1,200, $1,300 a month for a 5-bedroom mansion. So they prefer living there in terms of lifestyle, and then if they have to, they'll commute to town. But if they don't have to, they'll work in those local little CBDs that service that whole community. So Covington's got a CBD, McDonald's got a CBD. Griffin, for example, where we bought Westminster, they've got a population of about 65,000 people in that Griffin CBD. So there's a lot of industry, there's a lot of stuff going on just there. I know the new Caterpillar factory is there between McDonald and Covington, and they're employing about 2,500 people. So it's just like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of new stuff coming in all the time.
There's there's a big medical facility, medical something, and they again, and the reason I can't pinpoint it down just to one thing, there's 20 different things happening, you know what I mean, and they're all, and that's why Atlanta is such a dynamic place, and that's why the population's growing, because people want to come there to work. The population is currently about 4.5 to 5 million, and it's expected to be 6 million in the next by 2020. And that's people coming into town because there's job opportunities and because it's also a very affordable way of living. So it's it's the fourth biggest city in America.
Yeah. Influx of people, you're going to.
But that's not point, so it's got the population
and
growth.
The population growth is higher than the national average. So the national average is about 1%, and they're about 1.6%.
You see a threat from the shadow inventory.
We were talking about this last night. The shadow inventory is something that I think we need to be aware of it, definitely. But it has been managed well, in terms of them trickling in. Funny enough, we were talking to someone now on our last trip, and they were talking about the impact of the Democrats and the Republicans. And obviously the elections coming up and what impact, because when I say the elections come up, remember every 2 years they've got the local elections, and then every 4 years they've got the federal elections. And they were saying, one needs to be aware of that in terms of, so like in Memphis, they were telling us that they're expecting next year with after the local elections for more kind of shadow inventory to come into the market. But really from our perspective so far, they've managed it pretty well. And it's in their interest to manage it well, because if they tank with prices, then they get affected themselves. It's where the banks repossess properties and then hold them back, bringing them into the market.
So they control the flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they did all that through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and controlling the flow. So just in a nutshell, obviously Brendan's put this pack together for you so that you can take a look. I just want to kind of highlight, so a number of us have invested in Oak Forest, and where we stand with Oak Forest at the moment is we've pretty much got everything through. John has met with the Homeowners Association to get all the approvals through, all the zonings in place, and now it's a case of actually, we've been speaking to Brian in terms of getting the actual, because what we've got to do is we've got to build, we've got to get the actual plans of the house approved by, for each individual house. The intention there is to build a one show house, so that and then do a full marketing campaign locally, so that people could come in, they can see it, they can feel the fixtures, the finishes, and everything else, and then ultimately to roll that out probably at two houses a month. In terms of the absorption rates, in terms of going through Oak Forest. So everything's on track there. The intention would be to go into the ground early next year, in January basically, in terms of where we're at. In terms of Westminster, I think Brendan's explained that. We're in the process now of the land sales in terms of where we're at. And again, that project was a 6-month project, so the intention there would be to be out of that by April next year. And I think we're on track for that. Now, just to explain a little bit about Neisner and kind of the plan is that we've obviously got the launch next week in terms of the land. Now, with Neisner, as I think most of you know, I live down there, and I've been blown away by the caliber and the quality of people that live there. And if they don't live there, they own a holiday house there. And so the logic was, I went for a run. You might not think so, but I did. And,
one run, the whole year.
And just before we went to America. And anyone that knows Neisner well, you've got Teesman Island, that's where it all happens basically. And there's a restaurant there called Ilderplan, which is the restaurant that everyone goes to during the day. It's like a famous bakery and whatever. And then the good restaurants and the bars and everything are all down the end. So it is the place that everyone comes to. Now, whether Micheline is going on holiday to Plet, she's still going to come to Neisner. If someone goes to George, they're still going to come to Neisner. So what we thought is, rather than try and dominate George and Plet and whatever, we're just going to dominate Neisner. And so I got hold of a guy I just found out they had a to-let sign. And he was like, I was like, I want to rent the premises for 2 months. And he was like, I don't do 2 months, I only do 3 years. I said, well, pretty simple. If you want to make money over Christmas, we want to rent it for 2 months. So we've literally only rented it for December, January. 2 of our team are going to be working right the way through. And the intention is there's going to be lots of fun and games, there's going to be a lot of competitions. As Brendan said, we've luckily, Kelly's uncle owns the 4 top restaurants, so we've done an affiliate arrangement with him where we're going to drive traffic, to, we're calling it an offshore exhibition. And the only reason I'm telling you about it is A, if you're nice, like come visit us, but B, it's really to do brand awareness and to help people find out about individual opportunities, etc. So rather than just being quiet over the Christmas period, it's an opportunity to provide access to some of the top people in the country. And then again, next year there's a whole lot of things that we've got rolled out in February and March. So that really is it from Westminster's perspective. Then with Coldwater Creek, it's also a 20-lot development. And there, again, we own the land, and the intention there is to build out the houses as well, in terms of where we're at. And then the last one is Heritage Point that Brendan's mentioned. And the exciting thing with Heritage Point is that you if you just take the 34 lots on its own, it makes sense as a project. The 76 lots, the 90 acres is kind of almost a freebie.
Yeah.
It's not something we necessarily will do anything with now. You can hold it and worry about it in 5 years, something. So that's really where we're at there. And then obviously from the income plan perspective, that's really where we're focusing on the more commercial stuff, the stuff that Henry's been speaking about, in terms of getting commercial and also what we're doing with Bruce in terms of the apartments. In terms of the stuff that we can buy and hold.
Yeah. So one thing that some people saw while we were on the last trip is there was one particular building in Fayetteville where that's a beautiful commercial building. The top floor is completely vacant and the bottom floor is completely filled, but it's filled with really high quality tenants. A bank, Regent's Bank is in there, an attorney's firm is in there, Prudential Realty is in there, there's an accounting firm in there. There's quite a few really good tenants on the bottom floor, but the top floor is completely vacant. And after doing the numbers, it was apparent that if we could get a certain level of financing, about 70%, we'd be able to cover that bond repayment just out of the existing tenants. And then if we tenant the top floor, we'll be able to increase the cap rate, release more finance, or sell it to an institutional investor as a complete project at a decent cap rate.
That building's only 56% occupied.
Yeah.
But with that 56% occupation, it's already paying the finance basically.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of upside. So those are the type, those are the type of things that, as I said, with the income that we want to focus on, because that's a nice buy and hold.
So that one, the only reason we don't have the numbers in this brief at the moment is because we don't have it under contract yet. So we don't know where we stand. We're in negotiations with them right now. So Bruce is trying to tie that for us right now. As soon as we've got it under contract, then we'll be able to distribute
What
to
sort of
everybody.
competition do we have?
There's nobody else competing for it at the
that.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no competition, it's just they're talking about herd money. So they want 50,000 rand, so if we do the due diligence, then we don't.
Dollars, yeah.
Huh?
Dollars.
Dollars, yeah.
We paid it was 50,000 rand.
Yeah. So they want 50,000 and we try to negotiate down to 15. And that's only you lose that money if you don't continue after the due diligence. So we try to get it down to 15. But I'm very excited about that building. I think it's an excellent opportunity to double our capital in a very short period. We've got 75 days due diligence. I want to go back. There's one lease that expires next year. I want to go back and offer those guys a discount if they sign now up for the next 5 years. And then we've identified 3 potential tenants, and I want to go to them and say, listen, we offer you a discount. I know you lease where you currently are, it expires next year. Sign now, and then we give you a discount. And perhaps it's possible that we can fill up the building even before we pay we call it go harder.
Yeah, before we go hard on the money. So basically, in that due diligence period, on that 75 days, there'll be a point where we go hard on the money and then we have to close on it, we've got to raise the balance. So if we know that it's tenanted out completely by the time we've minimised the risk fantastically. Even though the risk is already relatively low because the existing tenants for bond repayments, we just want to make sure we're in there with the...
There's about a 6% cash on cash return as it is at the moment, just with the current tenants.
How much?
6%.
Yeah.
So we're covering the downside with current tenants, and then we've got the upside, brand new building, and I think it's a huge opportunity where we can double our money in a couple of years' time and then sell the building a couple of years' time.
What sort of indications do we have that we can get the 70% mortgage on the?
How much is
It's approved.
That's
$3 million, yeah.
it's actually that building's all just about trying to top the deal on the speech.
Okay.
So we're trying to do that.
Fantastic opportunity. We're paying just for the current income stream. So we're paying $100 per square foot. Cost you about $260 to build a building like that. So you get it at less than, it's less than 40% of the actual replacement value. Surely with a new building, you can't go wrong. I really can't see how you can go wrong with that. And Bruce, the guy that we've mentioned, he's the chartered accountant from South Africa, living there now for a lot, and he's got more stuff like that. And the bank own it, so the bank will give us the bank will give us a finance on the project as well. And what I like on top of that, we've negotiated with Bruce that he'll sign guarantees. We'll give him 5% of the equity, but he then signs for the money. It's even better. So the downside is there's basically no downside.
Why we need Bruce to sign for it is that he's an American citizen with an American social security number and all that. So just that track record, none of us have that track record. He does. That's the value he brings to the table for us. So we can get better rates, better loan values, etc.
So how much capital will you be looking to raise, hard capital?
Well, depending if we go for 70-80% for 80% financing, then we need about $800,000. But I don't like to get it so high. Perhaps we can do a little bit lower, 60 or 65%. Then I'm not sure exactly. It's about 1.4 million.
Well, $3.5 million in total.
Just a point of clarification, how many Wealthmar grades are there?
4 LLCs.
For each project is a new one.
Yeah. For each project is a
it's
new
ring-fenced because we don't want to, they allow projects to influence each other. So we ring-fence each project because there could also be different investors in each project. So we ring-fence it and we keep it like that, keep it simple and clean.
But do we all have an opportunity to invest?
Yeah.
Don't you
It's still open, so anybody that's interested, please talk to us.
But certain of the Wealthmar grades are closed.
Closed.
Yeah. Just thought, because we've been doing a lot of talking, can somebody just consolidate and say, Wealthmar grade 1 is this, 2 is that, 3 is that, 4 is that?
Okay.
Could somebody do that?
Yeah, I was giving the guy his number good then. But no, okay, so Wealthmar Grade Growth 101 owns Oak Forest.
Which is?
Oak Forest is the 46 units in the north of Atlanta, 46 landlots.
Yes, that's the first. The houses is about 4 to 6 million rand. And there's how many lots there?
46.
46.
So the lowest sales price there is about $350,000 through about $450,000. There's an absorption rate of 2 to 3 per month, and we can bring the houses to market for around $280, including land and costs.
But
So
that's close to investors, so we can't invest.
the land is so we in terms of getting started. Then the number 2 is Westminster, which was the 66 lots on the golf course. Happy? Just have that one. Number 3 is Coldwater Creek, which is the 20 lots. Which also
still open.
Still open, yeah. And then the number 4 is the Heritage Point. So they are all the growth projects, if you want to call it that. And then the income plan is number 5, and that's the one where we line up a building and we can hold like the commercial building.
And coming shortly, then is number 5 is the industrial play in North Dakota. But we haven't got a PPN, we're still investigating and looking at the numbers. And,
there's not an LLC set up yet.
For North Dakota?
Yeah, there will be one, but at the moment, we need to button down the exact project. John was there last week again. We're just trying to finalise the numbers and to get market comparables. And as I said to you right up front, the problem with North Dakota is it's very hard to find comparables because there's nothing else out there. Like there's not one industrial building in Portland, so it's hard to do comparables.
Yes.
Can't you use the other city as a comparable?
Well, that's what he's doing, Williston, but it's not the same. So it's a bit tricky.
Brennan, one of the original strategies was to cash out from Westminster and then roll the proceeds into, it was going to be the North Dakota office.
That's the same, it will be the same strategy.
Yeah, but on the timing, could you cash out on Westminster and then roll the proceeds into the Lafayette or Fayette office block?
See, that was going to be
wrong.
a bit of a longer term play. So I'm not sure about that answer. Our goal is still, you'll have the choice though, because we will wind that LLC up and pay out everybody.
My understanding of that office building is that if it all goes according to plan, we should be looking to close on it to the middle to end of February. That's what Bruce has told us. So we're actually, the chances are that we could be able to.
Well, it sounds like they might dovetail because they sold out of Westminster.
But I don't want to, I don't want to guarantee it.
But Fayette is a little bit closer to the sale out of Westminster, whereas North Dakota, there's a bit more of a time gap, so there's a bit more breathing space.
Exactly. And also remember, North Dakota is one project after another. There's like 10 mini projects going on. So, okay, so really from the last thing that I just wanted to discuss was, Peter, did that answer your question?
Yeah, so in other words, there are 5, or potentially
There's five with there's 5 with a potential 6, which is North Dakota.
Right, so what's the you've got
So
Oak
what's the
Forest,
income?
Westminster,
Coldwater Creek
yes,
and Heritage.
that's 4.
Yeah, and then the 5th one is the income plan where we're currently doing the commercial building.
That's the one with the Regions Bank in as the.
Is that closed?
Yeah. No,
that's
we're
open.
trying to finalize that.
Yeah.
And then the 6th one is the potential North Dakota, but that's not set up yet.
So at the moment, Heritage Point is open, Coldwater Creek is open, and the Region Bank one is open.
Well, it's not even
It's not on the cards, but
Which one's that?
Regions. That's the office.
Fayette office block.
Fayette.
So
No, that's number 5.
So Fayette office
Is that
block
the income?
and North Dakota for growth are income plan,
Income plans, yeah.
but the first 4 are growth.
Scott, maybe a request, that type of info you're talking about now, is it possible to send all the existing investors on a monthly basis a status of where are we on all these things, when are they planned close dates, just to have some sort of thing on paper?
Look, to be honest, that's exactly what Nonny was talking about with the communication plan. And her and John have been working really hard on that, because what we want to do is we want to every month be updating exactly what's happening on every project, the financials, everything. And that's why, even if that system takes another 6 months, we're still going to do it just on PDFs. And,
But we're just going to manually put it
Just an
together.
overview,
Yeah.
and just keep it short and simple on one page, with nothing more than one page or half a page.
Half a page.
What if I put a picture on there? Also,
Yeah.
Where are we?
For Louis, you're going to send half a page. For Peter, we're going to send a thesis.
But to be fair, at the moment, one is in the dark.
No,
And effectively, there should be a time scale and a deadline within which this information starts coming forward.
No, so the
Literally,
recommendations
no, that's what Nonny
will
was
be
talking about.
implemented from December. So
Yeah, we haven't received the contracts back either.
No, we haven't signed any contracts in
No,
this
that's what Brendan was talking about with the lawyers in terms of the contract.
yeah, so we'll have the updated, completed one, because we had to do some edits with them in Orlando when they basically took the South African one, Americanized it, and then when they Americanized it, so some of the essence of what we were trying to do was lost. For example, they gave us complete power as managers of it to do whatever we wanted, and we had to remove that from there so that we can get fired if we don't perform that type of stuff, which was not in the new operating agreement for us. So we had to get that edited. I'm waiting for the new edited version. As soon as I've read through it and I'm happy that they work properly, then I'll send it out to everybody. We'll sign it.
I think it's a fair milestone. Before everyone goes on holiday on the 15th of December, both the contracts will be done, and that's a commitment from both sides. We need to do it, and everyone needs to get it back, and then that's some feedback on every project, and then going forward, the idea will either be to have that system, or if nothing else, on a monthly basis to be able to deliver it.
So I have a problem because I won't be back until the 7th of January.
What problem?
Sign the contract
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, I won't be here.
Okay, well, when you
No,
go,
hey,
when you find?
30th.
Yeah, we
Next week Saturday.
That's next week
We
Saturday,
have
so
the same,
if I'm
we
happy
have the
with
same
that.
problem
Okay.
also going on.
Next week
Yeah.
Saturday.
If we've got those contracts this week, I'll get them out to you if I'm happy with them. I'll try to get it done as soon as possible. If not, we'll have to do it when you get that.
Can we get a lawyer to read them instead of you?
You want
Sorry, I'm only joking.
But I still need to make sure that, like, according to what should be in there, is actually in there. And then you can get anybody to read it.
Is this a generic contract for all of them?
For most, yeah,
No,
that's the
so-
basis of.
So the way it works, okay, is you've got an operating agreement, which is effectively it's like what we in South Africa would call a shareholders agreement per company, okay? They call it an operating agreement. So it will be 95% the same, it will just be tailor-made per project. So if we agree, this project is a 3-year contract, whatever, that would be in the operating agreement in terms of how the members, we as partners, how we operate basically.
Brendan, does this all address the issues that I raised with that
Yes.
loan agreement to do with Oak Forest, which I actually never signed because it had some flaws in it?
Yeah,
This
Henry, myself, and Nani, and John sat in both Chicago and in Orlando, going through every point from you, from another attorney, from Petro, from Peter, from a whole bunch of people, from Cliff as well. And that's where we drilled it down to the edits that needed to be made.
Because what I couldn't understand was supposed to be drafted by a lawyer and it was full of flaws, and that's why I just couldn't sign it.
Yeah.
And that was like in September sometime, yeah.
My wife's a lawyer, so be careful what you say about lawyers, but the whole system is flawed. Because you meet a lawyer, you tell them what you want, they then send it to the guy in America, who is, for a fact, he's going to tell you that it's all wrong because he wants to do all the wrong.
And
The whole system's flawed. Like you can't. It has been the most frustrating thing involved in this business to date.
Yeah.
And then even what Brendan's talking about, common sense stuff, that when we gave it back to them, they then changed. And they were like, no, we're protecting you. We're like, well, we don't want to be protected. We collectively need to be protected. Do you understand? So like they made it a completely one-sided agreement, which is not right either. You know what I mean? It's been so frustrating trying to get the lawyers to get this thing. But we nearly there. When they literally in the next couple of days.
The best legal protection you have is by knowing the people you're dealing with, not by some written document that you can spend hundreds of thousands in court fighting over, as to know the people. Which is why we like dealing with you guys, because we know what you do and what you do. And that's the best legal protection of all.
Spoken like a true investment banker.
The only thing we need to know is the people.
Why do you think I spent
Again, oxymoron, living and breathing.
Why do you think I spent 31 years sitting in bloody London, miserable weather, if I didn't get anything out of it? Learning all this stuff.
Clive and Peter need to have an arm wrestle because Clive has an MBA from London University, which is pretty impressive.
London Business School.
London Business School. And Peter is also a corporate finance CA banker person. So the point being is that they're the brains that really put pressure on Brendan and I to make sure that everything, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. No, it's good.
People keep it down. What I want to know about Peter is how come he talks like an Englishman with that accent?
How come you talk like an Englishman with Australia? Just to finish off, in terms of we've got a milestone in terms of those two things, and then in the next quarter of next year, what we're going to do going forward when we do the buyers trips is we're not going to do both. Okay, it completely confuses people and it's a disaster. Okay, when you've got someone coming and looking at a commercial building and the next day they're looking at a house, it doesn't work at all. Okay, so just in terms of any of you, if you want to plan your lives, next year John Chin is getting married on the 29th of March, and we, myself, and a couple of us are going to go to the wedding. The buyers trip for people that want to invest in direct houses is from the 15th of March to like the 23rd of March. Okay? The week before that will be the time when we're going out and looking at wealth migrate projects, but that'll be by invite only. So I'm telling you now, you're all invited, but we won't be putting that on emails, we won't be putting it on webinars. It's by invite only. It's not a buyer's trip. You know what I mean? It's purely for wealth migrate, and it's just a change of strategy because this last buyer's trip we just got back from, it doesn't work. having everyone come to Chicago to look at buildings that we might buy, or, you know what I mean? It just doesn't work basically. So that's just a change of strategy going forward in terms of where we are, and that's going to be our focus for the first quarter basically. So where we're at.
But then how do you plan this now? Is the week? Or is not the week after the 23rd? The Wealth Market, because then it's a week open before John's week.
Yeah, well, look, we need to. One of the things I need to sit down and finalise with you and Bryn, because you also wanted to stay to go to the Masters to Augusta, which is like the first week in April.
This year it's the 11th to the 14th.
Okay, 11th to the 14th. So
You have to do it afterwards,
yeah.
after the wedding.
No, that's the challenge. Like, I won't be careful with when John is
John is probably fine with it, maybe his wife not.
But look, I just wonder if you can just in your mind, like that's the idea is to do it to the middle to the end of March, basically. When the next trip is. John is also coming out in February to South Africa. That's the plan at the moment. So his intention is to come out in February once we've got a number of these numbers and stuff tied up in terms of that. So, any questions?
What's your 10-year vision for Wealth Migrate?
Good question. Basically, the more you look into it in terms of where the whole crowdfunding is going, and I wish I had a whiteboard here that I could show you, but basically in the beginning, you only want to deal with high net worth people that really understand business, hard work, sophistication. But with where the crowdfunding is going, and I don't know how much you followed some of the emails I've sent out to you, but basically the legislation just changed in September this year in America. It's the first country which has now allowed equity-based participation in terms of crowdfunding. Now, I know you all think that I'm probably dreaming, and Brendan is dreaming, but it's very much the analogy of, in 1980, Steve Jobs said that one day they'll have a digital book. In 1980, anyone who's read his book. And at the time, computers were the size of this table, and it was almost impossible to visualize or imagine. But crowdfunding, I can pretty much guarantee you, will change the way the banking system works. It will revolutionize the way the property industry works, and any lending environment in terms of people working together, collaboration, and everything else. So to answer your question, Louis, our intention is in the beginning to stay on the more traditional route in terms of virtually a private equity model that people understand. You're dealing with high net worth people, we're doing investments that we all understand. But with time, it's to really go into the crowdfunding position and position ourselves. There's quite a few crowdfunding portals out there, but all that they do everything. Like they're like a Walmart of you can do anything.
Yeah,
we want to be the specialized, we want to be the number one player for crowdfunding for international property.
But it's still going to be maybe in 10 years' time we'll sit down here and say we had 100 LLC, 100 projects, and every time you slot in wherever you feel comfortable in terms of investing money.
Very much so, very much so. And I think,
Sorry.
No, the last thing I was going to say is that it's not all just about America. While there's an opportunity in America, Henny and I had a good meeting yesterday with some guys we know very well in Australia. So it'll be constantly about diversifying and making sure that we're taking advantage of the options as well.
I'm very concerned about crowdfunding from an investor's point of view. How do the smaller guys get protected? Because let's be honest, the guys that are going to be managing the whole process are taking the fees, etc., etc. The smaller guys coming in, how are they going to get protected?
So at the moment,
to ensure their return.
Yeah.
So I read something about it in the States where they do sort of protect their own returns because they bought out a building in some street and they put restaurants in there, and all of a sudden all the people that funded that thing were visiting the restaurant, making sure that it works, making sure it pays its rent. But that's a specific. How do you protect?
So it's very interesting. So I spoke to George Ross about this, who's Donald Trump's right-hand man, and he pretty much summed up basically the same concern you've got and exactly where the business model is at the moment. And that is that it's still in very much the fledgling cowboy stage. And the people, what George Ross said, and if you looked at it, Donald Trump has a crowdfunding site called Fund Anything, And I was asking him about it, and he said the problem that you've got at the moment is exactly that. People are taking, there's too many fees, etc., and they're not actually looking after the investors. I'd like to believe that the way we want to change it and revolutionize it is where firstly interests are aligned, there's only fees earned after performance. And to answer your question, in terms of the security and protecting the smaller investor, there's still a lot of work that has to be done in that environment to make it work. And that's why right now we're not saying, look, we're a crowdfunding platform, this is how it works. Because that legislation still has to be finalised and thought through. But I come back to the Steve Jobs thing. It's going to happen. It's just how we get from here to there, and how it works in terms of the protection.
The last thing
I would
there's a
say,
mental shift that's happening in terms of the younger generations that are coming through using that technology. They're getting used to investing something online without expecting a massive return. For example, if you're investing in something on Kickstarter, they're like, look, I'm willing to put in $100 and I don't really care.
but
I just
also,
want to see it happen.
the last thing I would say there, Alan, is I'm not sure if you're aware of the concept of social proofing, but if you go on eBay now and you buy something, anyone who's bought anything on eBay or bid or buy or anything like that, you build up a profile, and there's no way to manipulate your profile. You're either good or you're bad, or you get a rating of 1 to 5. And the way that the protection is going to actually work in the future is going to have something to do with your social proofing and your track record. So if there's 10,000 people out there that are saying, this is really good, they don't charge fees, that I do earn my return, then people will invest in it from a social proofing perspective. And that is my gut feel as to how it's going to be solved. Like, I don't think any legislator is going to be able to sit down and write the perfect bit of law to protect people. It's actually going to be the social proofing environment that will protect people. So that's kind of
at some stage.
That's my next book, just by the way. No, seriously, I'm actually thinking quite a lot about it. Because it's such a new area, and all the stuff needs to be researched and understood.
What worries me about crowdfunding is that at some stage the regulators are going to come along and put their pennies into it and try and mess it up and control it. And that could sort of then make it like a typical collective investment scheme, where there's got to be all sorts of rules and regulations and protections for the smaller investor. And so the regulators are going to say, this is an area we haven't got control of yet. Let's see how we can get involved, and then they can mess it up.
But they're involved.
You say the social media scenario. Greed has always got the better of those things. And it comes down to the guys at the top then dealing with this crowdfunding, and at some stage the temptation changes. That's why you need the legislation or something else to protect those guys.
No, I don't disagree. And that's where, what Clive just said, the legislation is starting to be adapted. Literally this year in September in America they've changed the rules. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but at the moment you're not allowed to invest more than $1,000. That's the limit. So I can't ask for $50,000, it's $1,000 or less. And that's one of the ways they're kind of testing it so that people can't lose too much money just to sort of, but it's brand new. I mean, the legislation literally came out 60 days ago. So people are still trying to work out what it all means and how
But is it specific to property? Because I think Kickstarter you can put in any house.
But you can't do property.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Is that 1,000 restricted to property?
No, so and also Kickstarter is a donation, not an equity participation. So this is the law that changed in September is equity participation. So in Kickstarter, I put this thing on, like I have this new fancy watch, and I put in $5,000, and then I get sent the fancy watch when it's finished. But I don't own any piece of the business. The law that changed in September is equity participation. It's the new. There's 4 sectors of crowdfunding. This is the 4th one, but it's brand new. Like it's.
Scott, I just want to sort of perhaps elaborate on Louis' question. I think my vision for it is to have 10 years from now at least R1 billion amongst us as partners in wealth migration and management, in and the investment in the state. And I think the other part that I'm very excited about, that specifically why Non enjoy this, is to also tap into the resources of the institutional investors. Because she's got the experience, and we're going to start putting packages together that we're going to take to them and see what is their appetite to get involved in buying properties with us and investing overseas. They can take 15% of their asset base overseas, and we're going to start working in that market because there's a lot of smaller funds can't do it on their own, and I think we can bring value to the table for them as well. So I see three sort of measures. One is the institutional side, the other is us as partners here building this thing in the future, and then thirdly could be the crowdfunding, it depends on how it plays out in the long term.
Personally, I prefer to, the crowdfunding is the masses.
Yeah.
The smaller, or the smaller group investor, maybe you can put something else. But that smaller group, firstly, they know each other as all of, and they know their partner that's running the whole investment. They know them personally, they know what quality they are, they know their money is safe. That's that person. Contracts, like you mentioned, contracts is, you can go to court and it's going to take you ages to solve that there's a problem. Knowing somebody, you know what, that's probably the best contract.
We didn't know that Scott even ran, so how much do we know?
For the record, if anyone's done three comrades, then we can talk.
Alan, when we were in
That's
when we were in Tennessee, this goes back to Arkansas and back. One morning before breakfast.
And I've come to the topic, Kelly, so we want to talk physical, but anyway. Guys, should we, I mean, obviously we're here the whole afternoon. The purpose of wanting to sit here is that this a couple of days away is a blend between fun and information and trust and transparency. But equally so, it doesn't mean now when we go for lunch, it's over, do you know what I mean? So what we just wanted to do was kind of form a framework so that everyone kind of had a context, and now we can obviously chat and have a beer and whatever, and keep discussing it. And then, Alan, just so that you know, because we discussed this last night, tonight around the fireside, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A, because what I really want to do is on behalf of everyone, is to start asking Henny some of the questions of what's worked overseas investing, what hasn't worked. He's got a huge amount of knowledge and experience, and we want to go through that. But the reason we didn't go through that this morning is because it'll be more fun on the fireside in terms of where we're at. So.
Okay, just housekeeping as you finish, Scott. So we're going to have some sandwiches now. Then everybody is free to do whatever they want to, rest a little bit or what, because I think it's going to be a busy evening. With Scott, there's always a busy evening. Let's be aware, Scott sometimes starts singing at 11 or 12 or something. So, and then I think at 4 o'clock we'll go on the game drive. We'll go through the farm and look at some of the animals and just go, and then I think at about 6 o'clock there will be a sundowner for us in the bush. And then I think we will return back for the braai and for the evening sort of thing at about 8 o'clock.
Can we go before we start singing, otherwise we'll be fighting all the animals.
Or we might attract some leprechauns with an Irish folk singing. Oh, Jesus.
Yes. Cool. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for your time.